All right, here we go. Parshas Vayetze, Yaakov meBeersheva v'yelech Harana. So Rashi starts off saying that because it was Roy's Benois Canaan, his father didn't want him to marry Benois Canaan, so he went to Ishmael. Esau went to Ishmael, and Yaakov eventually goes to Beis Lavan. Vayelech Harana, he goes to Haran. We know Rashi speaks out that Bizman Shatzadik Be'ir, Hu Hoida, Hu Ziva, Hu Hadora. When the tzaddik leaves the town, the Hoid, the Hodor, and the Ziva leave, meaning the shine and the glory and the beauty of the tzaddik leaves with him. So the question that the Mefarshim are busy with over here is that L'chayr Yitzchak was there. What was the problem? Right, so hold that question for a little bit. Vayivka b'makom, pasuk continues, and it doesn't say which makom it was. It's the makom HaMikdash. It's Har Moriah. Right? Zok Rashi lehizker akosa be'ezem makom. The Torah doesn't tell us which place it was. El b'makom anizker b'makom acher. It's a place that's referenced elsewhere. Hu Har Moriah, Har Moriah shenemar ba be'yaris hamakom mirochek. The Torah never tells us where to build the Beis HaMikdash anyways. Ever. Even throughout Sefer Devarim, it doesn't tell us. It's because, and the Gemara Zvachim tells us that Shmuel Hanavi sat down with David HaMelech, with the Sefer Yeshua, with the Megillah, and they sat down and they learned through the Psukim and they figured out this is where they're going to make the Beis HaMikdash. But it's a concept of Lech Lecha where HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't tell Avram where to go. He just gave him go, and to get schar in every psia, to make it more exciting, to get more schar. Vayivga b'makom, Rashi says Rabbi Seinu Pirshu Lashon Tefillah. The Chachamim understand, Rabbi Seinu understand it to mean a Lashon Tefillah. Vayivga means to bump into, meaning like by chance, like it happened. Vayivga b'makom, he bumped into the place. So Chazal teach us that he went backwards, he went forwards, against the Maisa. Okay. Vayivga b'makom vayolan shem ki b'hashemesh, the sun was setting. Vayikach me'avnei hamakom vayosam merashoisav, he took from the stones of the place and he put them under his head because he wanted to protect himself from the animals. L'chayra, the pasuk says later, V'hinei Hashem nitzav olav, Hashem is standing over him, right? So if Hashem is standing over him, Hashem is protecting him, so no animal is going to start up with him. We know all stories, even in recent times, about big tzaddikim, that animals wouldn't come close to them because they were. So what was Yaakov afraid of? What was the pshat in this? So hold that question also. And we know that all the stones became one stone. That's the Mesilas Yesharim says in a few places that Bizman Shad Tzaddik Oila Oilam Oila Imay, when a tzaddik raises himself to higher madrega, so then he lifts up the world around him. And the avoda of Yaakov Avinu is b'ma'achid. Yaakov Avinu and 12 shvatim is gematria echad, is gematria ava. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad. Shema Yisrael, that's the higher madrega of Yaakov Avinu. And as I state in Rambam, that was the pshat in why we say Kriya Shema comes from Yaakov Avinu, as we know from the Gemara Psachim. It's really more Parshas Vayechi discussing this, but the concept, where's the Kabbalah's Malchus Shemayim? So that's always a good question, because we don't mention the word Melech in the pasuk of Shema Yisrael, but that is the spitz, that's the highest level of Kabbalah's Malchus Shemayim. So what's pshat in that? Pshat is because the job of a king is to unite the entire nation. That's Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad. The echad is what's ma'ached the entire nation. That's Malchus. Okay. So vayikach me'avnei hamakom vayosam merashoisav vayachaloim vayishka b'makom ahu, and he goes to sleep in that place. What does it mean vayishka b'makom ahu? So Rashi says loshon miut va'oisem makom shachav aval arba esrei shanim sheshimish b'beis ever lo shachav alaylo shayosik b'Torah. Says for 14 years he was in Beis Ever, he didn't sleep, but now he's going to sleep because he was Isaac b'Torah all those 14 years straight. He never slept. And now he's going to sleep. So bichlal, it's a modern maisa. First of all, sometimes the Gemara says a person doesn't sleep, makes sure he doesn't sleep for 3 days. Malkan Isaac is not something that he could physically do. And obviously, Yaakov Avinu is not bound by any physical bindings altogether. But I'll go upon him just to keep this in mind. Also, what does it mean by Yishkav B'makom Ahu? And he went to sleep. After Vusep is now he goes to sleep. What's going on? Vayachaloim, he has a dream. V'hinei sulam mutzav arza, he sees a ladder that's stably established on the ground. V'rosham egia hashamayma, and the top of the ladder is reaching into the heavens. V'hinei malachei Elohim olam v'yordim bay, and the angels of Hashem are going up and down the ladder. Rashi says that they were oilam tchilavach kach yardim, they were going up first, and then they were going down, that the malachim that were malavahim in Eretz Yisrael, they don't go to Chutz La'aretz, and the malachi Chutz La'aretz, it was the changing of the guard, so to speak, because he was leaving and he was going to Chutz La'aretz. V'hine Hashem nitzav olav, the pasuk continues, V'yomer ani Hashem elokei Avram Avicha v'elokei Yitzchak, ha'aretz asher ata shoicha v'lo l'cha t'neno zaracha, this piece of land that you're lying on, which means, Rashi brings on Chazal, that Kipel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kol Eretz Yisrael Tachtav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu folded up the entire Eretz Yisrael underneath him, Ramaz Leisha Tehinoich Likavesh, that it should be easy for him to conquer Eretz Yisrael. Laban of Ka'arba Amesh Zemer Kamesh Ladam, for the 4 Ames that are the makam of a person. Okay? Pasuk continues, Ve'azaracha, V'chulu. Now we get to Pasuk Yud Zayin. Pasuk Yud Zayin is as follows. This is what we're going to focus on. Vayira, and he was afraid. Vayomer, after the Vayikas Yaakov Mishnasai, Yaakov woke up. Vayomer, Ochen yesh Hashem ha'makam hazav ha'anochi lo yadati. He says, now I know that there's Hashem in this place, but I didn't know. There is Hashem in this place, but I didn't know. So what's Ochen yesh Hashem ha'makam hazav ha'anochi lo yadati? What does that mean? That's one question. And then the next pasuk, Vayira Vayomer Manera Hamakam Hazeh Ein Zeh Ki Im Beis Elikim V'Zeh Shar Hashemayim. What's Ein Zeh? Why does he should say Zeh Beis Elikim? What's Ein Zeh Ki Im Beis Elikim? What's the point in saying it like that? So let's go back for a second to the pasuk of Vayivga B'Makom Vayolan Sham Kiva Hashemesh. The Gemara Brachas Chavav Amud Beis says Avram was Mesaken Shachris, Yitzchak was Mesaken Mincha, Yaakov was Mesaken Tfilas Arvis, Shenemar Vayivga B'Makom Vayolan Sham, Ve'im Pegia L'Tfila. Pegia is a lashon of bumping into. It's like a happenstance. It's like Derech Agav. Yeah, when Shachris is in the morning, it's bright. Lahagaz B'Boker Chastecha Ve'Munascha B'Leilos. In the morning, we see everything. Everything is clear. That's Chesed. Everything's beautiful. Everything's great. So Lahagaz B'Boker Chastecha. At night, we don't see anything. So we didn't even know what's right in front of our face. The galus, we don't know what's going on. We're all confused. It's all upside down, right? So that's in order for us to function properly in the galus, we need to have amunah. If we don't have amunah, we're lost. We're toast. We're done. So Rabbi Nezer explains that that's the concept of what Ma'ariv. What's Ma'ariv? You ever went to Chapa Musaf? No, but you always go to Chapa Ma'ariv. What are you chapping Ma'arivs for? Why is Ma'ariv something like a chaplap thing? Zakt Rabbi Nezer murder gevart. He's almost malamed chus on the people that have a Ma'ariv in their sleep. No, I'm serious. He says a beautiful thing. He says, because when we're in the Cheshchas HaGolus, we don't know what's in front of us. We can't figure out what, we're living in a hastara we don't know. So a person doesn't know what to do. A person doesn't know. But a person knows one thing. Avei Zeche. One thing he knows for sure is that he could turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's not like he's prepared. It's not like he knows what he's going to say. It's not like he knows what he's going to do. But he knows he's with Hashem. He could ask Hashem for whatever he wants. And he goes weiter and he says like this, that this is the point of what Yaakov Avinu was masakin. What was he doing in those 14 years in Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever? He was learning. He was being taught the Torah's Hagolus. He was being taught how Klal Yisrael is going to have to fear in the Golus, how they have to behave in the Golus, how they have to act in the Golus. The Av of Golus is Yaakov. Avram Avinu traveled around a lot, and he had Nisyanis. We know that. Yitzchak, we spoke, didn't have anything. He stayed. Yitzchak didn't exist in this realm, B'chlal. Yaakov was much more involved in this realm, but in the Cheshchas HaGolus. That's where Yaakov lived. And that's where Yaakov is coming to be Mesaken. And really, Kedusha comes from, this is where Kedusha comes from. To bring Kedusha to all the places where it looks like Kedusha is not Shaykh, B'chlal. That's the avodah.
Chabad, going to random places.
Yeah, no, there is something to that, to bring kedusha to places where it's so far out and so no shaykh, completely disconnected, completely dark places from kedusha. You bring kedusha there, they're definitely doing something on a very high level. Not that we could understand it, but it's happening. So even if a person doesn't even know why he's davening, even if a person doesn't even recognize the words that he's saying, but Hashem listens to him, because this is a tefillah of the galus. When you're davening Shacharis, you know you're close, you know what you're doing. You're davening, you're married, you're half asleep, you're 3/4 asleep, you don't even know what you're saying anymore. But that's gufa the way that the tefillah was. I'm not saying you should sleep by married, but I'm saying that the concept of Yaakov Avinu being Mesaken, a tefillah in galus, That's the idea of what we're talking
Right,
about.
it's hard.
Exactly. And then the pasuk says, "Weiter, v'hoya zaracha kafar ha'oretz u'faratz the yom of a kedma." Right? What's the shaykhus between v'hoya zaracha kafar ha'oretz and then u'faratzta? Because when a person humbles himself in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he says, "I'm garnished and I don't have anything, I have no life, my entire existence comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu," then nothing can get in his way, and that's how a person has to act in the galus. When the more a person is mevatel himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more a person mevatel himself to the Torah, so then in order for tumah to be chal on something, it has to be mukshal l'kabel tumah, it has to be a kibul to be makabel the tumah, right? But if you're completely mevatel yourself, then there's no makom for the tumah to be chal on because you don't even exist anymore, right? So that's what he says. Then ufaratza, then there's no more boundaries. Faratza means going above and beyond any boundary shaykh. So that's a pshat, because when a person makes himself afar, then a person is able to, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him an achla b'li mitzarim, and Yaakov Avinu is the Av that says v'achalticha nachlas Yaakov Avicha kipi Hashem dibra. If a person is Shomer Shabbos properly, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him nachla b'li mitzarim. He gives him a nachla, a Yerusha without boundaries. Why without boundaries? In the terms that we're talking now, but it's Dafka v'hachalticha nachlas Yaakov Avicha. Dafka from Yaakov Avinu, he was the one that got this bracha of an achla b'li mitzarim. Okay, I don't want to talk about that. I want to focus on the medrash. This is really where we're getting at. That the medrash says the following: that vayira vayomer manera makom. So I said over this part as a hakdama to introduce this following medrash and the explanation that we'll give. Melamed shehara HaKadosh Baruch Hu liYaakov beis hamikdash bonoi v'charuv u'bonoi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed Yaakov Avinu in the Mara Hasulam the beis hamikdash built, destroyed, and rebuilt. And it says vayira vayomer. He was afraid and he said manera hamokim hazeh. Zeh is bonoi. Zeh bonoi. Hadamadat omar nora likimi mikdashecha. Fine. Let's just pause and give another akdama. We say in Shemoneh Esrei, Hagodol, Hagibor, v'Hanora. Godol is connected the midah of Avram Avinu, Chesed. Gibor is connected Yitzchak, Gvura, and the midah of Nora is the midah of Yaakov. I want to explain something. The Gemara says in Yuma that Yirmiyahu and Daniel wanted to, by the Churban Beis Hamikdash, they wanted to stop saying Gibor v'Noira in Shemoneh Esrei. They wanted to just say Hakel HaGodol. And they didn't want to say Gibor v'Noira. Why? Because the Goyim were making hapkes. The Goyim were making all kinds of problems. The Goyim were, the Lashon of the Gemara is Mekarkon Behechalei. The Goyim were dancing around in the Beis HaMikdash. The Ayeh Gvuraisav. Where's the Gvura of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Ayeh Neiraisav. Where's the fear of Hashem if they're all running around in the Beis HaMikdash? Achaba Anshe Knesset HaGdayla. Why were they called Anshe Knesset HaGdayla? Because they were machzer atorah liyoshna, and they were misakin to say hakel hagodel hagibor v'hanoira, to put these midas back in perspective. Why? Aye gvuraisav. These are the neirois of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What do you mean? These are the gvuraisav and neirois of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was able to be sovel, the goyim being mekarka b'hechaloi, the goyim being mezalzel and destroying the Beis HaMikdash, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not saying anything, that takes a tremendous amount of gvura, and that takes, that is doch the gvura of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Micha Meicha Be'elim, the Gemara continues, Micha Meicha Be'elim, right? What does it mean, Micha Meicha Be'elim, Hashem? The Gemara darshans, Micha Meicha Be'ilmim, right? It's very difficult to keep your mouth shut. It takes a certain gvura, it takes tremendous restraint to not open your mouth, especially when you see something that you feel it's so right to speak up. You see a guy desecrating a davar shebekdusha, you'll go and you'll scream at him, and you should, and you didn't maybe mechuyev to even, right? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees the goyim dancing around in the heichal and he doesn't say anything. If that's gufa coming from a matzav of Hester Panim. It's not because, but our job is to be able to try to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu within that matzav of Hester Panim. Along came Anshe Knesset HaGdayla was Masakin, that this is the nusach of Shemoneh Esrei that we have to say. We're not going to change the lashon pasuk from what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Hagodol, Hagibor, the Hanoira. Okay, so again, the first Beis Hamikdash would be Keneged Avram Avinu. That's Godol. The second Beis HaMikdash will be Keneged Yitzchak. That's going to be Gibor. The third Beis HaMikdash, the one that we're still waiting for out of Yom Hazeh, that's going to be Keneged Yaakov, Keneged the Midah of Nora, and that's going to be the Beis HaMikdash that's going to last. And we'll see there, it's how the Medrash darshans it out of the Psukim and how it's mavur in our Psukim, this concept that the third Beis HaMikdash is going to be Mekuyim, Dafka because it's coming from Yaakov. And the Medrash continues, Ma Nora HaMakom Hazeh, that means when Yaakov said Ma Nora HaMakom Hazeh, that means that he saw the Beis HaMikdash that was built, the first Beis HaMikdash. The Ein Zeh, when the pasuk says Ein Zeh Ki Im Beis Elikim, means that it's nothing. Ein means no, means nothing. Ein Zeh, this is not. This does not exist anymore. That means the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Like the pasuk says, Al Zeh Hoya Davel Libenu. This is what this is why our hearts were broken. Al Eila Chashchu Einenu. This is why our eyes got darkened, because the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Ki Im Beis Elikim Banu Meshulch L'Lasid Lavai Kamadat Omar Ki Chizak Brichei Shorayach. When he says Ki Im Beis Elikim, this is going to be the house of Hashem, of Elikim. That's when he saw the Beis HaMikdash rebuilt, and the Beis HaMikdash that's going to stand forever. And the pasuk is Ki Chizak Brichei Shorayach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be mechazik. The brichim are the beams of the she'arim, which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to constantly be in a matzah of being mechazik, that it's never going to, that it's never going to go away. And it's a fascinating thing. The Zera Shimshon brings from the Beis Yosef, who brings from the Mordechai in Hilchas Tisha B'Av, that says like this: Yesh b'nei Adam hamesimin even tachas reishim b'leil Tisha B'Av. There's a minig that people sleep with a stone instead of a pillow on Tisha B'Av. V'remez l'davar vayikach me'avnei hamokim. The remez is because by Yaakov Avinu it says that he took me'avnei hamokim. By the way, Evan, there's a great vort that Evan stands for Ovis, Nezikin, and Brachas, because the Gemara says in Bava Kama, Haimad the Bailam Ever Chassid, a person wants to be a chassid, to go to Mishur Sadin, he should be Mekayim Mili the Ovis, be Mekayim the Mili the Brachas, and be Mekayim the Mili the Nezikin. So that's Ben Adam La Chavera, Ben Adam La. Ovis is Ben Adam La Atzmai, Brachas Ben Adam La Malkum, Nezikin is Ben Adam La Chavera. Torah Vardim Milas Chasadim, Avrim Yitzchak Yaakov, it goes back to all that. Besides for that, the Yitzhahar is referred to in the Gemara and the Psukim as Evan. Evan hu nimuach. If he's an Evan, he's going to get melted, right? So vayikach me'avnei hamokim. He took away the Yitzhahar from the muk. Vayikach me'avnei hamokim. Could darshan like that also, right? But I don't want to. I'm not going down that route. But I'll upon him. He says. So the Zera Shimshon goes through the Psukim and he darshans it like this medrash and this Alpidus Gemara that we just explained from the Gemara Yuma. Says Manera Hamakim Hazeh. So he says this. What is this Mara Hasulam that Yaakov Avinu so got to do with the Beis HaMikdash, right? He was in the Makam HaMikdash, right? Think about it. He was 12 years in Shem Ve'ever. He comes here, he falls asleep. By the time you get found to fall asleep, like where'd it come from? Yeah, if I'd be up for 14 days, I'd also fall asleep. I wouldn't even make it that long, right? But I'll go upon what's the pshat? So we know that Yirmiyah and Daniel, after they saw the Chum Beis HaMikdash, they didn't want to say Gibor v'Nora, like the Gemara says. Anshe Knesset Gdela came there, Machzor Torah Yoshna. See, he says, Man Nora Hamakom Hazeh. That even Af Bisman She'ein Zeh, even when there's a time of Ein Zeh, when there's no Beis HaMikdash, then there's going to be more Nora. There's going to be much more of a matzav of seeing the Neiros of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to respond to the Goyim, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to... but we could see Hashem in a different oifen in the matzav of Seiser. Man Nora Hamakom Hazeh, that's the Beis HaMikdash that he saw. And after he saw the Beis HaMikdash, he didn't say Zeh Beis Elikim, Ela Ein Zeh, because he said Ein Zeh Oiseh HaBeis HaMikdash Yeh Kaim Lad. This is not the Beis HaMikdash that's going to last, because this Beis HaMikdash is going to get destroyed. What's the Beis HaMikdash that's going to last? What HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to build by himself. Ki Im Beis Elikim. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to build by himself, and that is Shar Shamayim. That's the Makam where all the tefillas are going to be oila from. Okay. The pasuk in the beginning of the parsha started off Vayetza Yaakov v'Beersheva Yelech Haran. Rashi says Yatzim Misham was Pana Hoida, Pana Ziva, Pana Hadara. The Medrash says in Eicha, the pasuk says in Eicha Vateitzei mi bas Tzion kol Hadara. Tzion is Yerushalayim, And it says that the pasuk says that Teitzemi Bas Tzion Kol Hadara, all the hadar, all the beauty of Bas Tzion left when there was the churban. What's Vateitze is lashon of Vayetze? It's the same lashon. So state in Medrash Vateitze Bas Tzion Kol Hadara Zakadosh Baruch Hu Shenamar Hod Vad Lavashta. That when the pasuk says Vateitze Bas Tzion, it means Hakadosh Baruch Hu left Tzion. There's many different levels of Ashras Hashchina, as the Chaim Mekadosh is marach in a place. Right? Hod v'hod lavashta is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The pasuk says Hod v'hod lavashta is referring to the hashras hashchina that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was bringing down. Right? So when it says in the pasuk that when the tzaddik Yitzias tzaddik in the ear, they left that there was no more shchina there anymore. You'll say that Yitzchak was there, but by Yaakov is the only one that says V'hine Hashem nitzav alav. And states in Chazal that Yaakov Avinu is the kiseh hakavod b'fnei atzmai. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Kairis Bris with Yaakov Avinu more than all the other Avos, and that's why Yaakov Avinu is referred to the Bechira Avos, as we spoke of many times already, that Avram had Yishmael, Yitzchak had Esav, Yaakov and Mitas Shlema, there's no Pseilas. I was thinking, it's not necessarily, we can't know who's bigger, we don't talk about who's bigger, but Yaakov is a Bechir Shaba Avos. You think about it, you're working on a certain skill, you perfect it, and you perfect it, and you perfect it, until eventually you get it, and it's much, much cleaner, it's much, much better. That's what was happening. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there was still Pseilas in Avram Avinu. We got rid of that. Then there was Pseilas of Yitzchak. We got rid of that. Now Yaakov is only Mitas Shlema. It's all clean. This is a fascinating thing. So when it says that the tzaddik left, that means that the Shechina left. But comes along to some sefer and says Amar de Gezach. I'm going to read his lashon. The Efshe Sharamas Kan Tishabav. Maybe we're being Miramas Tishabav over here, because Rashi says on the pasuk V'yishka b'makom ahu that Yudal Shanim he didn't sleep in Beis Ever and he was Isaac Batera. Why wasn't he Isaac Batera now? Why did he go to sleep? Because Tishabav you can't be Isaac Batera. What? There was Tishabav 14 years when he was in Shem Ve'ever also. So what does that mean? Right? So that's what he says. But I think it's not what some type it says, but I think that the pshat is like this. So we know that the Gemara says in Brachas, that once the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, the only thing that still exists, that's left over from the Beis HaMikdash, that the Churban didn't reach, was the Dalet Am Shal Halacha. Rashi mentioned before that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Mekapel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu folded up the entire Eretz Yisrael to be under Yaakov Avinu, that he should be able to be kovish it, like the Dalet Amis of a person. What do you mean, like the Dalet Amis of a person? Right? But the pshat is that I think it's we could say that it's referencing the Dalet Amis Shal Halacha. Right? Yaakov is Torah. Right? That's Yaakov's businesses. Right? So I wanted to say a little more that maybe the pshat is that Enechanami, he was preparing. The whole avoid of Shem Ve'ever was to prepare for this moment of being able to see and be soivel, a Beis HaMikdash bonoi chorav bonoi. It's not pshat that, he fell asleep. His avodah was to be able to recognize that there's going to be a matzav of a Beis HaMikdash that's built when Klal Yisrael is b'tifarta, and then there's also a matzav of a churban Beis HaMikdash. And that's what Yaakov has to be soivel. Yaakov's not learning now because he's distanced from the Torah. Because there's a churban. When there's a churban in the Beis HaMikdash, there's a churban in the Torah. When there's a churban in Klal Yisrael, there's a churban in the Torah. It's all one thing. It all goes together. Navad the Tishbav is also to learn, because we need to focus our kaiches on the churban Beis HaMikdash we don't have anymore. But I wanted to say like this: there's halacha, I think we mentioned a different time, that if a person sees Afilu Echad Yisrael passes away, he has to rise kriya, Sefer Torah Nisraf, right? Like a Sefer Torah that got burnt, the person has to rise kriya, right? When a person is meisei mutal lefanov, when a person is in front of the mace, it's a whole different story. And halachically speaking, there are many nafkeminis. If a person is oimid l'fnei hameis and a person's stamach by the levai or something, a person has to be much more in tune to the sensitivities of Kved Hameis when he's standing. But now Yaakov Avinu is in the Malkum HaMikdash, right? He's running away from Esav. I said that's big shirish over here also. Esav was the one who destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. Esav was his brother. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because Sinas Chino. It's not a Pashto Zach. Esav is the one that destroys the Beis HaMikdash. You know who says this? The Navi says this. Avadia. The whole Sefer Avadia. It's one parak. It's 21 psukim or 22 psukim. goes through a whole thing about how Avadia was a ger. Avadia himself was a ger. Where is he? What nation is he from? He himself is from a descendant of Esav, and he converts to Yiddishkeit, and he tells us how bad Esav is and what's going to happen to us, and how Klal Yisrael is going to take him over. Now here we have a very fascinating story and a fascinating medrash. The Gemara Chulun says that Hine Malachi Elekim Olam v'Yordam Bay. Yeah, the Malachi Elekim were going up and down. So Tana, the Gemara says, Olam Mastakim the Yukna Shel Maila. They were going up and they were looking at the picture, so to speak, of the Maila, and they were going down to see the picture of Lamata. What does that mean? So Rashi says, B'diyukna Shel Maila, parts of Adam Sheba Abba Chayis B'dmus. What was going on? Let me give you a little hakdama to what's going on over here. In the Kisei HaKavod, we mentioned before that Yaakov is very much shaykh to the concept of Kisei HaKavod. What on HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Kisei HaKavod? There's four sides. There's four faces, right? There's Aryeh, a lion, which is the king of the wild animals. Nesher, the king of the birds. There's Kruv, which is a malach, and then there's Yaakov. Yaakov Avinu to Rasa shel Yaakov Avinu chakuk al Kisei HaKavod. There's a picture of Yaakov Avinu on the Kisei HaKavod. So Yaakov Avinu is sleeping in the Makam HaMikdash, and the Beis HaMikdash shel Maila is mechum and connected the Beis HaMikdash shel Mata, right? So they're going up the ladder, and they say, 1 second. You have like these mirrors that play tricks, right? So you're over there and you're over there. It looks like you're over there and you're over there at the same time, right? And you're not really sure like which one's the mirror, which one's the real one, right? So they know that the Malachim know that there's a tour of Yaakov Avinu on the Kisei HaKavod because they're up there. They know about that. But then they're like, 1 second, how could he also live in the Tachtonim? That doesn't make any sense. So they're going up and down to check. Like, doesn't make sense. Who is this guy? How could he be in both places at the same time? So there's a Vart from Rav Shimshon HaShapali. There's a big Makubal who was killed in Tachvatat. He was killed in the Gzer Tachvatat by Chamonitsky Machshemai. It's a whole fascinating, in the 1648, 1649, there's big pogroms throughout Poland. There's a very, very heilige person, Shimshon HaShapali. There's many, many fascinating gematrias and Ramozim and Kabbalistic. He's a big, big Makubal. And there's a lot of fascinating Torah that they're very busy with trying to understand how to make sense out of it. But it's usually very, very interesting and very, very fascinating. Mom is like every shtickle blows your mind one after the next. Like you can't do too much at once because it just hurts the brains. Anyways, he says like this. He says that the pasuk says, "Ochein," he said, right? "Ochein yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati." He says, Achein, yes, there is Hashem in this place. V'anochi lo yadati. So what does that mean? Achein is Rosh Hashanah, Aryeh, Kruv, and Nesher. Those are three of the Stadim of the Kisei HaKavod. V'anochi lo yadati. But he didn't know that there was the Yud stands for Yaakov. Right? The Aryeh, the Nesher, the Kruv, and Yaakov. V'anochi, he didn't know that he himself existed up there. Now that he saw that he existed, Surasa Chakuk al Kisei HaKavod, so now he says, Ein Zakim Beis Elikim v'Zeh Shemaim. Now I know that this is the real deal, that we're talking real over here. And we could explain the Pesukim like this also. But there's not a medrash that I want to mention also. I mean, the medrash that we just explained, that he saw Beis HaMikdash Bonoi, Charvu Bonoi. Then there's another medrash in Eicha, that Pasuk says in Eicha, Hishlech Mishamayim Eretz Teferes Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu threw from Shemayim to the ground Teferes Yisrael. Now let's just be clear on something over here. The Madrega, there's two Madregas. There's the Madrega of Yaakov, and there's the Madrega of Yisrael. The Madrega of Yaakov means that we're Avodim. The Madrega of Yisrael means that we're Bonim. Bonim Lamakim is a much higher Madrega than Avodim, right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Hishlich Mishamayim Eretz Teferes Yisrael by the Chum Beis HaMikdash. So the Medrash says the following: HaKadosh Baruch Hu threw Teferes Yisrael down from Shemayim to the earth. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had enough, so to speak, and he threw it down. Zok the Medrash Amr Yeshua Reb Nachman. Mashal b'nei Medina, it's a mashal to the people of a country. She'also atar l'melech, they made a crown for a king. Hikni too, they started bothering the king. V'savlan, he was civil, he was patient with them. Hikni too, they championed him some more. V'savlan, he was still civil with them. Achakach omalem hamelech. After a while, the king said to them, Klumatam aknita ma'isiel bavor atar she'tartam bi. You made me a crown. What are you championing about? Right? Halachon tarim ba'apeichon. He took the crown and he threw it in front of them. Kach omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. So said HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Klal Yisrael. Klum atam maknitim ma'isi ela b'shvili kunin shel Yaakov shachakuk al kisi. What are you championing for? You know that the tzur of Yaakov is engraved on the Kisei HaKavod. Halacha and Tarim Ba'al Peichai. He says, you want it, you're chattering me about it, here it is. So that's a pshat in Hishlech V'Shamayim Eretz Teferes Yisrael. So Yaakov Avinu saw that his tzura was Chokol Kol Kisei HaKavod. So obviously that means when Klal Yisrael was B'Miluah, Klal Yisrael was stark, right? The Beis HaMikdash was around, there was Giluy Shechin everywhere, right? So that's Beis HaMikdash Bonoi, when he saw his picture, his tzura, so to speak. So he says, it was Beis HaMikdash Bonoi. But when he saw the Beis HaMikdash Chorav, he didn't see his tzura over there anymore, so he got very nervous. He says, what happened? Why? Why wasn't his tzura there anymore? Because Hishlech Mishamayim Eretz Teferes Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took the tzura of Yaakov Avinu Kaviyachal and removed it from the Kisei HaKavod because Klal Yisrael is not deserving of their tzura being there. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu removed it from that, right? So then he says, Ochen yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh. He says there is Hashem in this place. Meaning because in the beginning he didn't know that he was on the Kisei HaKavod. Now that he sees that he's on the Kisei HaKavod, so first it's Beis HaMikdash Bonoi, now it's Chorav. But then he says, V'anoichi lo yadati. The fact that I was there wasn't this gala to me in the Mara of the Nevuah. Till this point. And then he was afraid. Vayira, why was he afraid? Because he saw that once he saw that his tzur wasn't there, so he got nervous again. So once he had the Nevuah, he was able to answer the question that was bothering him of Man Nora HaMokum Hazeh. That means the Beis HaMikdash is Bonoi. Right? If the Beis HaMikdash is Bonoi, that means the tzur of Yaakov Avinu was there. Ein Zeh. Once the Beis HaMikdash was Chorav, and Memela, there's no more demus of Yaakov on the Kisei HaKavod anymore, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hishlech Mishamayim Eretz Teferes Yisrael. Ki in Beis Elokim means the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt. That's the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, which is going to be Amid L'Netzach, because it's coming from the Midah of Nor, which is Yaakov Avinu, which has Gevalt Netzchias. But I think it's something very interesting. Ein Zeh. Ein Zeh is Rosh Tevis. What's Ein? Ein is Rosh Tevis, Aryeh, Nesher, and Yaakov. Even in the matzav of Ein, may not be so clear, but there is the mitzvah of Yaakov Avinu there. There's a word I was trying to remember. I heard a duke in the Lashon of a Rambam somewhere. They were talking about the Churban. That afilu bizman she'ein, the Beis HaMikdash is still there. Meaning that the Kedusha of the Mikdash is still there. Okay. That's really part one. Part two, hopefully we'll have some time for this. We'll go 9:20. Rabbi Yonatan Eibishter says a more big part. He says that Yaakov Avinu ran away from Esav Erev Pesach. Vus epis Erev Pesach. So you have to realize that sometimes it's just like dumb that when Chazal talk about that Yitzchak was born on Pesach, it doesn't necessarily mean Pesach on Tesvav Nisan. It means that the avoid and the tikkun that we do on Tesvav Nisan, they were able to do that. That's what was happening when they were born. That's what was happening. What was going on over there. As about how to understand, that they were Mekayim Kol Terakula. I mean, the tikkunim that were piled when we do the mitzvahs, they were doing it with their, that's what they were doing also. I mean, without necessarily getting involved in the mitzvah. Okay, so we know that Yitzchak, the Gemara states in Rosh Hashanah, Yitzchak Avinu was born on Pesach. The Gemara says that Hakadosh Baruch Hu is memalish naisem shel tzadikim meichodesh l'chodesh mishana l'shana. That a person dies on tzaddik dies on his birthday. That's the thing. So Esav said that he's not going to kill Yaakov kol zman Yitzchak's alive, right? Yitzchak says, I got to give you the brachos before I die, right? So why is Yitzchak nervous all of a sudden that he's going to die? Because coming Pesach, he's a tzaddik, he's going to die on his birthday, he's getting nervous, right? Yitzchak's getting nervous because he's going to die. Esav now says, oh, great, my father's going to die, now I could kill Yaakov. Yaakov says, oh, this is what Esav's saying, I better run for my life, right? So that's why he ran away. That's why he ran away dafka then. Because till then, he wasn't afraid. Because he knew that Kol Zman Yitzchak was alive. Esav can't hurt him. Yeah? It's in descent. And they have all kinds of shverkaitin if it could be like this or not. So they ask a kasha on this, because Lamaisa, how did he move the stones? It was Yantif, it was Muktzah, Azam and Maisa, that's not my shiloh, but Al Kapanim, the Pasuk says that Hine Anochi Imachush Marticha B'chol Asher Telech is a simon for Lel Shimur. Yeah? There's a great question that the yeshiva should like to ask. There's halacha lel shimurim, the lel haseder, that you don't go to sleep because you have to be Isaac time until you fall asleep. Right? The whole concept of lel shimurim is that you're shomer min mazikim, right? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives extra shmir from the mazikim. Why do we say Kriyishma at night to ward off the mazikim? But if we're falling asleep, Taich Kedei the Divrei Sipur Tis B'Tzrayim, then we're not going to say Shema. So I think that the most part the Teretz K'Bes Arab Kanievsky say Teretz, or one of the Eretz Yisrael Diggers say the Teretz, that the pshat is that Ajchat Tanushin doesn't mean that you're out cold mamish, but like you're tired enough that you can't function anymore, and then you're pater, and then you can say Shema like that.
Usually after 4 cups.
And then you go to sleep. Right.
So you do say Shema on the Seder night? I thought you don't say it.
The first
Halacha now.
The first parasha.
First parsha.
Yeah. Now, what's very interesting is that the Torah brings that the Torah brings very interesting that the first day of the first time I saw this Vartan of Yanis and Eibshitz, I was looking for it inside tonight. It took me a while till I found it. So I was like, if it doesn't exist, then this whole Torah's ice is going to be very bad. But no, I found it. It's on the pasuk of Parchav Tes Pasuk Aleph, where Yaakov, goes to Bnei Kedem. But Vayis Yaakov Ragel Vayis Artzim Bnei Kedem, or something like that. Anyway, so the Torah Shulchan Aruch bring it ready. Atbash, right? Aleph matches with Taf, and Beis matches with Shin, and you go weiter and weiter. The first, whatever day of the week is the first day of Pesach, that's when that's going to be the same day of the week as Tisha B'Av. You'll ask, Ma'ah Shaychus, right? We just explained that the whole Mara HaSulam happened on Lel Tisha B'Av. Was Shaykh to Tisha B'Av and Chum Beis HaMikdash, it's also Shaykh to the Indian of Lel HaSeder also. So that was my original thought, about this Nakud over here. The Shabbat Leket says that we say Halach Ma'anya, right? We say Lashon Arami. Why? Because Mazik, Zak the Gemara, that the Mazikim don't understand Lashon Arami, they're not going to come and share the Seder. Question, if they'll Shimurim, why they're not coming anyways, right? But what do we say in Halach Ma'anya? We're inviting everybody. So if we're inviting everybody, maybe we mean the Mazikim also. So if we're saying that, then we have to be careful when we're inviting people that we should say it in a lashon that they shouldn't understand. They shouldn't take any hints to come to ruin our seder. Okay. And as I state in Rekach, and they go weiter to ask that the Gemara says in Yuma that the Satan is mekadrig on 364 days of the year, right? Besides for Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur doesn't have Rishus. Below Pesach el Chayri doesn't have Karech to be mazik either, right? Because it's Lel Shimurim. See, he says that in Lel Shimurim he's able to be mazik goyim if they say certain things, and if Yidden are able to,
watching a movie?
If Yidden are able to, on Lel Pesach he's able to come and be mazik by the goyim, and if Yidden would invite him, then if the Yidden are going to say things that are going to make him interested in coming, so then he could come also. And we could be amazed if it says in the Haggadah, Aniv le'malach, Aniv le'shlech. We're focusing on the Lel HaSeder, focusing on HaKadosh Baruch Hu alone, without any malachim, without any anything. Right? And Shteiten Zayar, it's printed in the Haggadahs before the Seder, before the Haggadah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the whole Pamalia, Shamayla, comes to watch the Yidden making the Seder. So what's the vort? Right? So I said that's the pshat why the Mazikim don't come anymore. It's not pshat because, they don't have Rishus to be mazik, but when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there, there's such a strong Gilush Shchina that Mamela, there's no makam for any of these Mazikim or for any of these Satan and Mashchis and all these bad dudes. There's no room for them to be here. So Mamela, they're ice. So I was thinking that's pshat in this Maisa with Yaakov Avinu. Because Yaakov Avinu is saying, he puts the thing around his head, and he says he's afraid of the chayis, right? So Rashi says. We asked before, why is he afraid of the chayis? Right? Try to say, if this is man of the Beis Hamikdash bonoi, so then he's nothing to be afraid about, right? Beis Hamikdash chorv, then there's rishus for mazikim. Once he gets rid of the mazikim, Beis Hamikdash bonoi again, then he gets rid of the mazikim. So then there's makom for the Evan to become one Evan, and that's Vayemahu Yiyeh Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. That's the words. All right, I think we'll stop here.